Hello and welcome to California Bountiful. I'm your host, Aubrey Aquino, and I am high above the Napa Valley at an estate that's both inspiring and supplying the ingredients for some San Francisco menus.
We are at Casper Estate, and it's property that my grandparents purchased in the early 60s. My grandparents lived in the city, in San Francisco, and I think his vision was to have a place where he could go and be able to be outdoors. And by doing so, he found a place that was pretty far away from the city, way up on a hill, overlooking the Napa Valley. Originally, he had some cows and some horses. He'd be fully dressed in a cowboy hat and a button-down shirt and a vest and a tweed jacket and his nice trousers, but a nice big cowboy belt and a belt with a big belt buckle and his cowboy boots, and he'd be out there feeding the horses or feeding the cows and checking on stuff. Later, I was able to ride horseback and to go out on all these different trails. And then my grandmother had a vegetable garden and a herb garden, and so we would work in that, and so we were always doing things.
With 60 years of family history in the Napa Valley, this sister and her brother have evolved the land their grandparents first farmed.
We were the ones who planted the grapes. We were the ones who planted the additional olive trees. So that's been under everything that we've been doing. Our soil is really site-specific. So we have a lot of magnesium and iron in our soil, and you can really taste it in some of the fruits and vegetables and definitely in the wines.
We got on the train and started growing grapes in 2001, was our first block, and we planted more and more grapes over the years. And now we grow Cabernet Sauvignon, Cab Franc, and some Sauvignon Blanc as well.
And now delivering their farm flavors to the city through cultivar.
We do olive oil, grapes, olive oil, honey, and we also have our gardens here, which we grow for our restaurant in San Francisco. The restaurant concept started out as a way to sell more wine, but then really grew in concept as a farm-to-table restaurant. There's lots of strawberries, there's squash, there's carrots, gosh, all kinds of things, lots of herbs and flowers, and that really dictates the menu. It's about the freshness. When you're just eating strawberries that were picked that morning, you can just really taste it. Very, very fresh. That's what it's all about, and local. Only being, say, 60 miles from San Francisco, it doesn't travel far. Having that connection to what we're doing here in Napa and bringing it to San Francisco.
Starting with Cultivar San Francisco, they added another location in Ghirardelli Square, and now a Sausalito spot is also in the mix.
And all the menus are driven from what we're growing here. And it's very seasonal, very local, and just a lot of fun. It's nice to be up here.
And with Cultivar, they're sharing the best of both worlds.
It's really amazing when you grow something, produce something, and then you see it out there in the world and you hear that other people love it, and you hear from friends of friends who don't know that you're associated with it whatsoever, and they are raving about something, whether it's the wine or they went in and had the food. I think about my grandparents a lot when I'm here driving up and I see a flower or something, because we used to plant daffodils at a certain time of year, and I see them still coming up. And they're just things that always make me think of my grandmother and make me smile. I feel like we've been very, very blessed. My grandfather, I'm sure, is very shocked that we have a wine in his name.
In some certain sense, it might be kind of the final piece of what my grandfather had envisioned. I know he didn't really necessarily have a real goal in what he was doing up here, but just to develop it and to do something and to make it productive.
If you're anything like me, there's a good chance you're making two very common kitchen mistakes that's causing your produce to ripen way too quickly. I'm registered dietitian Ashley Hawk, and today I want to talk about the proper way to store your tomatoes and your berries to maximize their taste and their freshness. Up first, did you know that tomatoes are not supposed to be stored in the refrigerator? Tomatoes have a natural ripening process, and when they're put in the fridge, it prohibits this process from reaching its full potential. This causes them to get a little mushy and not have the full texture and flavor that they really should be enjoyed with. Storing your tomatoes on the counter is the best way to keep them, and then rinse them when you're ready to eat. If a tomato is starting to get overripe, you can put it in the fridge, but let it come up to room temperature before you go to eat it. I love putting sliced tomatoes on top of my toast or eating them in a caprese salad. Now, berries are also known for being very delicate, which means that it's easy for them to grow mold. This is why it's very important to not wash them until you're ready to eat them. Storing your strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries in the fridge is the best way to keep them fresh, but just rinse them prior to eating them. This way, there's less of a chance that they're going to grow mold or become spoiled. I love putting antioxidant-rich berries on top of my overnight oats or enjoying them on a fresh salad. Tomatoes and strawberries are both not only full of nutrients like antioxidants, but they're also some of the most hydrating produce available. They're a great way to add a boost of flavor and nutrients to any meal. For more nutrition tips and tricks, you can go to ashleyhawkrd.com or follow along the fun at ashleyhawkrd.
Later in the show, meet the California farmer that wants a wife. But first, a farmer who grows microgreens in the city teams up with local chefs to elevate their plates.
California Bountiful is brought to you by the California Farm Bureau.
You know, Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies, too. Just like I'm so much more than quarterback Peyton Manning. I'm also debating Manning. And honestly, this might be my best sport.
I would argue that it's not.
I think it might be.
No, it's not.
Is to.
Is not.
Is to.
Is not.
Is to times infinity, no take-backs.
You can't do no take-backs.
That's debatable. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Now, more ways to watch California Bountiful for free. Just find and download our all-new video app on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, or Amazon Fire. Then start streaming Bountiful content whenever you want. It's that easy.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When you choose California Grown, you're a part of something good. Sound too good to be true? Not at all. It sounds responsible. We lead the nation in sustainable measures, plus some of the highest worker pay and protections. It sounds diverse, with 400 plus specialty crops produced statewide. And it sounds fresh because it was grown right here. Learn more at californiagrown.org.
At this restaurant, building community and sourcing local are top priorities. And now that they've found a microgreen grower right here in the city, their chef is able to make his plates even more vibrant.
On a city corner in San Francisco's Sunset District, Sung Park runs a small neighborhood restaurant featuring a menu inspired by his own childhood memories.
We are trying to bring people together through food and serve a menu that is really California cuisine and just seen through the lens of a kid who grew up here in San Francisco. And it is the experiences that I've had growing up here put on a plate.
In a foodie haven like SF, his creative, ingredient-forward California cuisine without boundaries approach, pairing unexpected flavors with a subtle nod to his Korean heritage, is amplified even more due to his use of some key ingredients.
Things like this are generally very difficult to do unless you are at a very high level. And I'm not saying that we're not at a high level in terms of cooking, but you need space, and space requires financial resources. Working with Paul has been great because it's almost like he incubates what we need, and then we're able to go ahead and bring it here and then just go ahead and let it mature on a plate almost. And it's a very cyclical relationship. It's very symbiotic. He starts with seeds, microgreens on our plate. We get to then share his story and what we do with that to our guests here in the dining room, and they might look him up and then find out what he's doing.
How about some Japanese oba shiso?
Enter Paul Flores of Microgreens. He's a rarity in San Francisco's urban landscape, farming specialty produce in the Lower Haight.
I like to think I'm exceeding the stereotype. A lot of farmers are just doing one or the other because they're already kind of specialty production, mushrooms and microgreens. But I've kind of got it so down at this point for both of them that I'm able to do them side by side and provide chefs like Sung with just more options, more variety from the same grower.
Before connecting with Paul, Chef Sung was limited to what he could source from larger producers. But after discovering Paul's microgreens via Instagram and a few DMs later, he hasn't looked back.
You want something that'll knock your socks off?
It's been really wonderful. Not so much in terms of where the menu goes, but in terms of what we're able to do with what I have on the menu. Any vegetable or herb in its very, very tiny form, and the flavors are very intense. They're amplified. Certain things like fenugreek that most people see as a spice or a ground fenugreek, we're able to use those in the restaurant as a fresh herb that goes with the lamb that we have on the menu.
And they especially like the live trays. And then on top of that, they especially like that the trays are biodegradable, because this means I'm not using plastic clamshells. I'm not harvesting, which is kind of more of a benefit for me, but it also benefits the chef because they get to do the harvesting right before they plate it. And because of the live trays, I'm not using refrigeration, so it really brings down the overhead of my business and kind of reduces the carbon footprint of what I'm doing. I'm able to clone and grow various fungi. I'm big on experimentation with what I do in my lab and just what I'm doing with cultivation, and I got the sense that Sung really likes to experiment with his cuisine, so it really just comes back to that passion for high quality food, unique ingredients, and just like putting our heart and soul into what we do.
An organically grown and beneficial relationship for two businesses with health and wellness of Bay Area diners at their core.
I communicate with Sung when I have a new variety that I'm thinking about trying, just to see if he's interested, so he has time to maybe come up with a menu idea on how to include it in a dish. And that's going to continue. You know, there's so much unexplored cuisine here in California that the local chefs don't have access to yet that I would love to bring to the table.
The joy of using microgreens is that they are very aesthetically pleasing. They add a whole new life to the aesthetics of a dish or a menu item that we put on, at the same time lending their flavor. There's a certain vibrancy that comes through with microgreens and herbs that are picked right at that moment, a la minute if you will, and there's nothing better. We want people to feel very appreciated and come in here, enjoy their meal, and feel like, hey, they were taken care of for an evening. A lot of people refer to restaurants as service industry, but you know, I think a restaurant transcends more than that. It is genuinely just hospitality. It is welcoming you into our home here, and the best way that I can do that is through food. Come in with an open palate, an open heart, and just enjoy what we have to offer. Hi guys, my name's Sung. I am the chef owner of Cotai Republic here in San Francisco in the Inner Sunset District. And today we're going to be doing a really simple yellowfin tuna tartare. So we have yellowfin tuna from the Marshall Islands, and it's a really simple preparation that we're going to do. We've got tuna that's been kind of diced here into cubes. So it's a very easy tartare kind of a cut. The tuna will then start in a bowl, and then we have a little bit of fish sauce. So we do need to season the tuna. We're going to put a little bit of fish sauce in there, and then just a pinch of salt. That'll help the tuna to really quickly marinate just a touch here. Next, we're going to go in with a little bit of a nori aioli that we made. It's got in here is a little bit of ginger, miso, some dried seaweed or nori, and then a house-made mayo that we do. So we'll take 1 spoon in there and dress it really nicely. Give it a quick toss. And then with this, we want a little bit of texture, a little bit of freshness. So we're also going to add a good spoon of cucumber here. So it's a little diced cucumber. And if you're doing this at home, really just don't even worry about measuring. If for those who don't like cucumber, just omit it altogether. You can do shallots or a fine diced onion also. And then just finally, really fresh lime juice, just for that really good brightness and acidity. We'll do a fresh squeeze in there. If you like it more on the tart side, please feel free to add more lime juice. It is definitely a personal preference thing. And This is simply put together and it's basically all done now. We're gonna put it in a ring mold. If you have one of these at home, it's a great thing to do, but just kind of put it in the mold here. Get all of it with the aioli that's dressed on there, the cucumbers, and then use the back of your spoon holding the ring mold there so it doesn't move around. Back of the spoon and just lightly push it down. You don't want to press too hard. We don't want to ruin all of the fish and the cucumbers in there. And you have this really nice little cylinder of tuna tartare. We're going to finish with just a little bit of chili oil. It adds a slight bit of heat and smokiness. And then we have these microgreens. So this is micro shiso, which we got from Paul over at Microgreens. And this is very similar to the large shiso leaves that you do see at the Japanese restaurants sometimes. They have a little bit of a minty flavor, very herbal, slightly spicy even. For this, we'll need a little bit of a serving vessel. Here we make nori chips, a little bit of seaweed just pressed together with rice paper and then fried at a relatively low temperature. Set it right on top, and that is our tuna tartare there.
Still to come, we sit down with one of the farmers on Season 3 of Farmer Wants a Wife. And up next, a Healdsburg farm that also boasts a 3 Michelin star restaurant.
Did you know Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company? They're one of America's largest financial services companies too. Just like I'm so much more than quarterback Peyton Manning. I'm also Peyton Manning.
It's lovely, Peyton.
Did you say Peyton or Peyton?
Peyton.
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 Great work.
Thank you. For your insurance and financial needs, Peyton, Nationwide is on your side.
The California Farm Bureau has protected the diverse agricultural interests in the Golden State for over a century. As part of the California Farm Bureau, you'll add your voice to the combined strength of over 34,000 farmers, ranchers, and families through our state. That means more connections, more influence, and more opportunity to fight for the issues that impact your life. With your support behind us, California Farm Bureau's robust government affairs, federal policy and farm pact, and legal teams work tirelessly to advocate at all levels of government, protecting and promoting our shared way of life. Together, California Farm Bureau and our members are standing up for farmers, ranchers, and families throughout the Golden State every day, working to cultivate a bountiful future for all Californians.
California Grown Spotlight.
You know, Sonoma County is such a special place within California, which we're both from and we both love so much. I fell in love with cooking and food at 9 years old, and watching the chefs work looked like something I really wanted to be a part of, and I've just been pursuing it my whole life.
I got into farming very organically, just from all of the experiences we had living abroad.
We take a lot of pride in having our guests, whether they are local or they're from California or they're from somewhere else in the country or somewhere else in the world, of really showing and showcasing what is so special and beautiful about this place. And that's why we really have this ethos of like, let's tell the story of today, you know, from here, because every day of the year, 365 days a year, there's such a beautiful story to tell here.
There is, yeah, there definitely is. It's a love story.
It's a love story.
It is. Running my own farm, like creating this space and having the ability to steward this little slice of land on this big, beautiful earth is so important to me. It's an ability to nurture something that is so much bigger than me, with people who care so deeply about it.
And your farming gives us in the restaurant a sense of purpose around like knowing what we're doing and what we're doing it for. So, you know, creatively, we're not saying what do we want to cook, it's really you saying here's what you have.
Yeah.
And then we make all of our creative decisions based on that, which is a really exciting way to cook.
I think what you and I do, cooking and farming, is such a natural extension of ourselves. And within this community, I feel so at home because everybody throws themselves wholeheartedly into what it is that they're doing.
Before our region, before Healdsburg, before this valley was known for wine, its history was really in fruits and dried fruits, in particular in fruits. So it's a long history for us. So we always love to tie ourselves to the history of this region and that lineage. And of course, now we're known for wine, and we're very much like bringing back the farming and the orchards aspect of it. So we always like to feature that history on the menu. We say that we tell the story of today. So what we're serving on our 10-course menu is a reflection of what is coming from Katina's farm, from your farm. And we're always like just showcasing the hard work of the farmers who are working for months and months and months to create something that in the kitchen we only have a few hours and we serve that night. And for us in the kitchen, it's always inspiring because we're always just reacting to what you're growing and what you're the most excited about, what you're harvesting. That's what it is that we're cooking and what drives our creativity.
Straight ahead, Farmer Matt's putting his California farm on the spot as he looks for love on TV.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Peyton Manning, I'm also Calculating Manning. Yep, math checks out.
Join me, Gary Sack, on the Voice of California Agriculture podcast, an insightful look into what's happening in the world of agriculture, from how crops and farmers are faring to legislative and regulatory issues, plus other farm and food news. It's our time to talk about all of it. What are the implications of foreign investment in the U.S. farmland? Find us today at Apple Podcast, Spotify, and California Farm Bureau's website, the Voice of California Agriculture podcast, where California agriculture speaks.
Try to understand me more, and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find ways to support your kids at sounditouttogether.org.
Now for a Bountiful Spotlight.
You're so handsome, by the way. The dimples are dimpling. They're really getting me.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Matt Warren. He's a farmer with Shanley Farms, and he is also one of the 4 featured farmers on the 3rd season of Farmer Once a Wife. Hey Matt, how are you?
Great, nice to see you.
Well, first of all, we're just gonna get it out of the way. Talk about how you ended up on Farmer Once a Wife.
That's a really good question. Well, first of all, I never in a million years thought I'd be doing anything like that. And so it ended up being a really cool opportunity. And I got reached out to on social media basically and asked if I was interested, which I, to be honest, said no several times. And then after talking to friends and family, they're like, come on, you have to do this. Like, you're perfect for it. And all the stars kind of aligned. So I ended up going forward with it, and I'm glad I did. I'm not your typical like 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation farmer like most folks are when you imagine a farmer.
Matt Warren jumped into farming a few years ago when his brother and sister-in-law needed help at their Morro Bay farm. And now he's being featured on a network TV show where farmers are the main characters.
Say hello to Farmer Matt.
I feel really fortunate. I love where I live. I think California has a lot to offer that most of the country doesn't really see, especially when it comes to farming and ag. And so I was pretty, proud to be able to showcase what we do here on the farm and what all of our neighbors do as far as, cattle and produce and all this kind of thing.
And not only was he proudly repping the Golden State, he's also getting a shot to find love.
We grow avocados and exotic fruits.
Them girls were trying to touch Matt's avocados. Didn't like it.
This show is quite a bit different because these gals from all over the country, different places, actually come to my home, live here, and work here, do different things among my family and friends and all that kind of stuff. So it's really personal, but I think that ends up being a great thing because they get to actually see you in real life and get to know you.
I'm going to be here on Farmer Once a Wife. I'm 30 years old, and I'm excited to get rolling. Met the ladies today.
This area is very unique. San Luis Obispo County in general is full of just all kinds of different produce, which is awesome. You know, we're really fortunate to be able to live here and to grow the crops that we do. We do avocados, finger limes, we have coffee, many other things, but we have a bit of a microclimate here in Morro Bay where we can, grow these things that typically wouldn't grow in most parts of the state. And so it was really cool to be able to go on, national television and portray not only what we're working on here, but what a lot of our neighbors are, and just kind of represent this area.
Proud to share a slice of his farm life on the Central Coast.
Like any farm, especially family ran, you're wearing a lot of different hats. There's only a few of us here that are really doing most of the things. So some days could be on a tractor or a forklift, loading fruit or knocking down weeds. And then the next day you might be on a conference trying to sell produce or do marketing. Really, it just depends on the day. I mean, there's so many different facets to farming. Just being able to live and work here in this beautiful place. I didn't grow up into farming, but the biggest thing I've realized since I've gotten into it in the last few years is the people really what make it. Your neighbors, the people that you're working with and bumping shoulders with are also farmers, and they're some of the best people.
Season 3 follows the new crop of farmers who are each hoping to find a love connection that fits their farming lifestyles.
I think I had a little bit of a leg up in some scenarios just because, we're 5 minutes from the beach. We grow all kinds of exotic fruit that you can just walk around and pick and eat off the trees, which is pretty neat. Everyone loves avocados most of the time, so that's an easy one to sell. With this season and previous, a lot of the guys are either doing cattle or row crops and stuff like that, and we just have a completely different thing going on here. We do exotic fruits that are mostly grown in South America, things like that, so it's pretty easy to get the gals excited to come back here.
Qualities I'm looking for in a wife: someone who's really driven, smart, someone that's really fun too at the end of the day.
These were women that were from all parts of the country, and so some of them were used to farm life, some of them were not, and so there's a lot of interesting clashes there and things that went on.
They've been sneaking off. It just got really real.
It wasn't the worst to be from California by the beach. I think that was a good selling point for me.
So now that the show is rolling out on TVs and devices everywhere, Matt's excited to watch along as this reality show unfolds.
I want to see what it looks like because contrary to what most people think, I don't really get to see most of it either until it comes out. So I'll kind of be watching alongside with everybody else. And you film so much and it really gets condensed down, so I probably forgot half the things that I said during it, so I'll be able to be entertained too.
I guess the big question is, will Matt find a wife on the show? And what's next?
It's just been a pretty cool experience that not a lot of people get to do.
But you're going to continue farming. The plan is to continue farming.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think this is going anywhere, so we're going to be here working in the meantime, and the TV stuff will just be for fun, I guess. Although name Farmer Matt's going to stick for a while.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of California Bountiful. Until next time, you can keep up with us online at californiabountiful.com. Take care and have a wonderful week.